This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to talk about Satoshi, Kenosis, and Christmas. For those of you who aren't familiar with this ancient Greek word, kenosis just means self-emptying, and it comes from the Greek verb kenoo, which means to empty out, almost like you're pouring the water out of a cup. Even if you're not a Christian or a New Testament scholar, I think it's important to understand threads in human culture like this. And I promise you I'm going to relate this all back to Satoshi Nakamoto by the end of this video. So here's the famous passage. If you say kenosis to any scholar of the New Testament, they'll tell you you're talking about Philippians 2. This is the passage, Philippians 2, chapter 2, verse 5. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself. There's that verb, kenosin. That's the version of the verb that we're talking about, kenosis. Emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself even more and became obedient unto death, even death on a cross. What's interesting about this passage is this is almost certainly an early creed of the church that St. Paul has embedded here and is quoting here. And this letter likely predates even the early Gospel of St. Mark by probably a decade. I believe Philippians is early 60s AD. So it's a very interesting glimpse into what the early church believed. And this passage is obviously about Christmas, which is why I'm making this video now. This passage is simultaneously about Christmas and the incarnation and also the crucifixion, seeing the birth and death of Christ as two sides of the same coin. And if we're going to do it in the language of the church, the second person of the Holy Trinity, begotten of the Father before the space-time continuum existed, that's the modern physics version of it, descended so low that he became the child of a dirt-poor peasant woman in some rural backwater of the Roman Empire. We're talking about Mary, of course. That's about as low as it gets. And then to make matters even lower, he was murdered by the authorities and hung on a cross, which is literally the worst thing that could happen to a pious adult male in this culture, according to the Mosaic canon. This famous quote from Deuteronomy, "Cursed is he who hangs on a tree." But paradoxically here, this passage, descending, taking on flesh, becoming a man, being crucified and humbled, paradoxically the way down turned out to be the way up. And I think this is echoed in all great myths. For example, Obi-Wan Kenobi's words to Darth Vader, "If you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine." We see something similar happening in Dante's Divine Comedy. To go up, you must first go down. And we have Dante, of course, who has to go down into the inferno, all the different circles of hell, before he can walk back up and go through purgatory and go to Paradiso at the end. So what does any of this have to do with Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto, this concept of kenosis? It's just really this paradox that to become the founder of a new global money, you need to disappear. If you stick around to soak up the glory or try to profit from it, the whole project fails because it becomes highly centralized and has a leader. So this is another example in life where the way down is the way up. In order to start your own money, you need to take the path of humility, not the path of ego that we see with so many different crypto founders like Vitalik and Charles Hoskinson and Craig Wright and Roger Ver. And then the least humble of them all, of course, Richard Hart, who's on the run from Interpol as we speak. This is not how you create a neutral currency for 8 billion people with your fancy SUVs and your big PP license plate like Richard Hart did here. Satoshi, unlike Richard Hart, took the path of humility, the path of kenosis, of self-emptying, and he gave the world a wonderful gift and then disappeared, creating wealth for the world while denying himself any of that wealth or glory. And because of Satoshi's sacrifice, Bitcoin is not just money for cypherpunks or libertarians or some small group or Christians or really any specific group. Bitcoin is neutral, ethical money for all 8 billion human souls living on planet Earth today. So I hope none of you have found this comparison to be sacrilegious. I'll be very clear. I don't think that Satoshi is God or the Messiah or something like this, but I do think that Satoshi's self-emptying certainly does echo this biblical concept of kenosis and sets him apart from every other crypto founder because of this. I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, or whatever you celebrate. Wishing you blessed times with family and friends at this very special time of the year. And I look forward to taking a couple days off and then seeing you either on Friday or Saturday of this week with the next video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video, and let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.